The financial empire always hides, manipulating and controlling the entire world. How does someone become poor? What does that have to do with me? Who would want to become poor? Precisely because more and more people are finding the answer to this question, including from the world's top universities who have become enlightened, who have awakened. Recently, they've started to rise up and protest right within their own schools. This has led the United States to pass a law that even encroaches on the freedom of speech we've always cherished. Why? Because this answer directly threatens the interests of the highest tier in the pyramid of power. Today's video, honestly, I finished it a long time ago, but I had to revise it once more, because the original version, word for word, was basically illegal. This is also the video that has caused me the most anxiety over the past few months. If I haven't been hauled away yet, it's probably thanks to all of you who've liked and supported me. Why? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Art of Wealth. Do you know what the future holds? Aside from sunlight being free, everything else, breathing, drinking water, you'll have to pay for. Pay me. Because everything in this world belongs to me. If you want to use it, you have to pay me. Doesn't that sound absurd? Like something out of a movie? Do you know who I am? I'm very, very humble, so humble that my name has never appeared on the list of the world's richest people. But step by step, I've been turning a vision into reality. A vision that many people imagined as kids, a vision of world domination. And the reason you don't know who I am is because I'm not an individual. I'm a corporation, a powerful collective mind. You might not believe me right now, and that's fine. Just think about this. How does someone become poor? Through heavy borrowing, gambling, prostitution, starting a business, investing, or doing nothing at all. Look at the biggest statistic in the world. 97% of the wealth is held by 3% of the population. That means 97% of the remaining population are poor. So what are those 97% of poor people doing? Studying, working, getting married, having kids, and then dying. You think poverty comes from doing nothing, but in the end, even if you do all of those things, you're still poor. The truth is, when you go to school, you spend your parents' money. And why do you have to study? You don't even know, maybe it's to get a good job later and earn money to pay your parents back. But over 20 years of education, you've spent a fortune. Then you graduate, get a job. You studied economics, but what do? Become an economist? Nope, I studied economics too, but 80% of my university friends ended up selling insurance or real estate. That's fine. Do it well, and you can still make money. You strive to be an outstanding salesperson, earning more than others. But people need to dress and live up to their status, right? At this point, you think you need to invest in yourself. Shouldn't you buy a Mercedes-Benz to impress clients, a Rolex to show you're young and successful, to build trust, an Armani suit to look professional? And after getting all those things, you become more attractive. Lots of women start seeking your attention. You can't resist the temptation, and you become a father. I don't need to spell out what happens next, do I? You end up like your parents, raising at least 3 people, worrying about their food, clothes, housing, and education for over 20 years. You might think that's cruel enough, but the reality is even harsher. Every penny you spend ultimately flows into the pockets of the capitalists. They use that money to hire you to work for them, then entice more people to spend money on their products. Most importantly, they make money lose value over time. So if you don't work and just live off savings, you won't last long. You're forced to keep working hard. So who are these capitalists? How did we step by step fall into this trap? And most importantly, how do we escape this deadly cycle? What I'm saying today will, as always, spark controversy. Lately, this has become even clearer, but many people can't accept it. Rebirth from ashes is always painful and full of challenges. It can completely upend the value system of most people. That's why fewer and fewer dare to talk about it. My YouTube video might only be recommended to you once. If you want to hold on to this chance, connect with me now, subscribe to my channel for free and turn on notifications. Have you ever thought about these things? The 2008 financial crisis, the recent pandemic, or even Japan dumping nuclear wastewater? Who benefits the most each year? Who's quietly exploiting the cycles of rising and falling interest rates to profit? I'll tell you, all of this could be the result of man-made disasters. They create crises, then build their own Noah's Arks, and finally sell tickets at exorbitant prices to the world. What does that mean? Last year, the U.S. quickly passed a law banning discussions about Jesus being killed by Jews in the Bible, as well as prohibiting any accusations that defame the Jewish community, such as claims that Jews control the U.S. government, media, economy, and other societal sectors. Why? Some say it's just a conspiracy theory, but others argue that this very ban exposes the truth. Either way, if you dare mention it, you'll be labeled anti-Semitic, which means breaking the law. So to be clear, today we're not talking about ethnicity, we're talking about corporations. We all know Apple was founded by Steve Jobs in a garage, right? So who owns? You'll find that the three biggest shareholders are Vanguard, BlackRock, and Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. What about Steve Jobs? His stake is so small, it doesn't even make the top three. Now look at Microsoft, Bill Gates' company, right? But the three largest shareholders are still Vanguard, BlackRock, and Microsoft's CEO. That CEO owns just aboard 0.02% of the shares. Bill Gates, he's not even in the top three. To save time, let's cut to the chase. Whether it's tech giants like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, or other industries like oil, Shell, BP, pharmaceuticals, Johnson & Johnson, or entertainment, Disney, Netflix, Universal, they all have one thing in common. The three biggest shareholders are always Vanguard, BlackRock, and often a third company, State Street. But here's the kicker. Even State Street is controlled by Vanguard and BlackRock. The total assets managed by these three corporations exceed $21 trillion. You might not grasp that number, so let's compare. The combined GDP of all 27 EU countries, plus Japan, is about $20 trillion. Not only that, these three corporations hold cross-ownership stakes in each other. This means they don't just own the world. They control each other too. What does that imply? For most of humanity, from birth to death, every dollar they spend ends up in the pockets of these three corporations. You might think you're choosing between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but in the end, both belong to the same owners. Though their stances seem different, and these companies appear to compete, if you look closely, the real owners behind both are still Vanguard and BlackRock, sometimes with Berkshire Hathaway thrown in. But if you dig deeper, the biggest shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway are, you guessed it, Vanguard and BlackRock. When the internet first took off, Apple and Microsoft looked like bitter rivals. Some people swore by iOS, others by Windows. But once again, the biggest shareholders behind Vanguard and BlackRock. This is the strategy of betting on both sides. No matter who wins, the real victors are the financial powers behind them. So if you want to climb higher today, what do you have to do? You have to find a way to please these financial titans. Those who obey them become the rulers. But why are they so rich? They can buy up so many companies. Here's how it happened. Years ago, BlackRock's CEO, while walking his dog and feeling a bit bored, came up with a money-making idea. Imagine you're a bank. Someone borrows $30 million from you to buy a house at 3% interest over 30 years. You lend $30 million, and after 30 years they pay back $47 million. Your profit is $17 million, right? But 30 years to earn $17 million is too slow. So he thought of a way to sell that debt. We all know loans require collateral. If the borrower can't pay, the collateral, in this case, the house, belongs to the bank and can be sold. So that $47 million debt note is essentially an asset with value. Whoever holds it can collect the debt. If the borrower defaults, the house belongs to the note holder. Instead of waiting 30 years to collect $47 million, the bank sells the debt note to another financial institution for $31 million. This means the borrower's debt is transferred to that institution. They pay $31 million for a debt worth $47 million and take over collecting it. The bank, it pockets $1 million instantly without waiting decades. If the borrower defaults later, it's no longer the bank's problem. So the easiest way to make money is to keep finding people to borrow money to buy houses. The bank keeps issuing loans, then sells the debt notes to financial institutions for immediate profit. This is the model BlackRock's CEO invented. Suddenly, everyone could borrow from him. Even beggars, as long as they accepted high interest rates. This caused U.S. housing prices to skyrocket at the time. The debt notes in his hands also rose in value, and he sold them to firms like Lehman Brothers. With this system, just $1 million could stir up a market worth trillions. This was the root of the subprime mortgage crisis. The aftermath is well known. Poor people borrowed to buy houses, but when prices crashed, they couldn't pay. Lehman Brothers couldn't collect and went bankrupt, triggering the 2008 financial crisis. Most companies and assets worldwide were sold off dirt cheap during that time. But BlackRock, having made a fortune before the crisis, swooped in to buy global assets at bargain prices. For example, they bought the UK's oldest bank, Barclays, at an unprecedented discount during the crisis. During that crisis, the U.S. Federal Reserve Fed even turned to BlackRock for help. The Fed gave BlackRock the authority to buy up U.S. corporate bonds to save the economy. Yes, heard that right? The agency responsible for printing money handed cash to BlackRock and let them decide which companies to rescue. With their deep understanding of financial crises, since they helped create it, BlackRock easily guided the U.S. government and the Fed through the storm. This made BlackRock a major power in the U.S., forging tight ties with the ruling elite. The U.S. Treasury practically became their backyard. Did you know what that means? Even U.S. pension funds were handed over to BlackRock to manage. During the pandemic, when the economy struggled, the Fed kept printing money, and BlackRock, without any bidding process, consistently received contracts to buy $40 billion in bonds each month. That means freshly printed money flowed straight into BlackRock's pockets. Remember the Silicon Valley Bank, SVB collapse in 2023. BlackRock was tasked with assessing assets and handling the crisis for the U.S. government. They also expanded their influence into Europe, signing countless deals with central banks and governments. They can even plant their people in key positions to influence White House decisions. Check Biden's former administration, economic advisors, the vice president, and even the Treasury's number 2. All ex-BlackRock employees. BlackRock also poaches talent from the Treasury and financial regulators, hiring droves of senior officials. It's like a teacher giving you the exam questions beforehand. Say, what's 1 plus 1, but not the answer. This is why so many stock market players lose money. The company you invest in might be profitable and undervalued, but the stock still doesn't rise. The moment you buy, it drops. Why? The market is riddled with insider info and manipulation. Imagine, I'm a tycoon. I know a stock is about to get a slew of supportive policies. What do? Naturally, I buy in at the bottom when it's cheap, especially when tons of people are selling, keeping the price low. This is called absorbing shares. Once most shares are in my hands, and no one's left to sell, I keep buying, and the price shoots up. Simple supply and demand. No supply, just demand, and the price explodes. Small retail investors see the surge and rush in. As they buy, I sell some shares at the peak while short selling to push the price down. When it drops, panicked small investors sell to cut losses. I buy those shares back cheap, then pull the price up again. At the right moment, the supportive policies get announced, the media hypes it up, and more small investors pile in. That's when I offload everything at the top. This is the true nature of the stock market. When everyone jumps in on good news, that's when the tycoons cash out. So we don't need to obsess over analyzing news, reading financial reports, or studying complex economic indicators. The key is watching the moves of the big players and following their tracks. We just need to learn to invest with the lowest risk during strong uptrends and know when to cut losses if we misjudge the direction. With a good mentor and a reliable trading system, you can follow the steps and succeed. When two giant financial corporations control most major companies worldwide, it sparks endless debates. Many realize that most global events tie back to them. At first, I wanted to find a reason to debunk this view, but in the end, I was speechless. After all, the ones who profit most really are them. Who made the most money during the pandemic? America's biggest pharma company, Pfizer, and its largest shareholder, BlackRock. What about last year's devastating Hawaii wildfires? After that disaster, a company bought up tons of properties for just $20,000 each. Before, Hawaiians refused to sell. But after the fires destroyed homes and caused widespread loss, they had no choice. People in financial distress sold their assets to survive. And the buyers, the truly terrifying ones, look at Japan. They dumped nuclear wastewater into the sea. On the surface, Tokyo Electric Power is responsible, but its biggest shareholder, BlackRock. Why do this? We all know radiation's biggest harm to humans is cancer. And who's the largest shareholder in the world's top cancer drug makers? BlackRock again. Just a coincidence. The Russia-Ukraine war broke out. Wars need weapons. Where do Ukraine's weapons come from? The U.S. government. But who's behind the arms manufacturers? BlackRock. Plus, military aid isn't free. Ukraine has to repay it over time. The war's dragged on, and Ukraine's debt has piled up to unpayable levels. So Ukraine's government mortgaged national assets, electricity, rare earths, energy, agriculture, and other key sectors to U.S. companies. If they can't repay, those assets go to those firms. And who's behind those firms? BlackRock. With just $110 billion in debt relief, BlackRock could nearly control Ukraine's entire national wealth. So, how do we escape this cycle? Remember, the world's rules can't be changed. If we can't change them, we can only learn to play by them. What's the real rule? Think hard about this. The world doesn't need a Noah's Ark because the apocalypse is coming. It's because a Noah's Ark was built that the apocalypse has to happen. In other words, if there's no demand, we'll create it. Otherwise, who'd pay sky-high prices for tickets? In my last video, I talked about what capitalists fear most. As technology advances, we used to produce 100 items a month. Now, with modern machines, it's 10,000. But people can't consume that much. They don't need it and won't spend. If no one buys, businesses face inventory pile-ups. When goods stack up in factories, companies go bust. Workers lose jobs. Incomes drop. And with no money, they buy even less. A recession cycle begins. So what's the fix? Global financial elites sit down and devise a solution. Brainwash people with ads to spend mindlessly. Check Facebook. How many people have bios like "Live for today" or "You only live once"? They sound like life philosophies. But what are they really? Excuses to spend. Remember this. If you want to make money, you have to take it from others' wallets. To do that, you need 3 tricks. First, turn nothing into something. If someone just wants basic food and drink, what do they care about? Price. They'll pick the cheapest option. If you're in that business, you'd have to keep lowering prices, even taking losses. What's the point? So you need to make a rock worth more than a 5-star meal. Long ago, capitalists wanted to boost consumption. So they took a common stone, carbon, found everywhere, repackaged it, ran massive ad campaigns, and planted the slogan "Diamonds are forever, a love eternal" in people's minds. Suddenly, every marriage needed a diamond. No diamond, they'll say you don't love her. You're cheap. You're incapable. Marriage is a lifelong commitment. Shouldn't your gift be expensive? Of course, the pricier, the deeper the love. You might hesitate because a diamond costs 3 years' income, but don't worry. Capitalists will tell you it's a family heirloom. Your kids can inherit it. Your grandkids too. Suddenly, it feels romantic and worthwhile, right? So you spend 3 years' savings on a rock, money that could have paid for your kids' education. For worse, once bought, diamonds barely hold value when resold. Personally, every time I buy a Rolex, they throw in a few diamonds as a forced bundle. Brand new diamonds, resold, drop to 30% of their price. Used, just 10%. That's how capitalists create something no one needs. Even after I've told you this truth, countless people will still buy diamonds for their weddings. Even if the woman you love doesn't want one, her parents won't agree unless you do. Second, shift perceptions to tie products to social status. Say you just want a simple, nice, practical bag. But capitalists plant a thought. A $20 bag is for factory girls. If you're a professional office woman, you need a $1,000 deicher for a date, a party, or to show off luxury. The rich buy bags from $10,000. It's like price reflects taste and status. Sounds reasonable. Rich people buy expensive stuff, and only they can and will pay for luxury. Who'd want the same bag as a factory worker? This exploits humans' love of comparison, paired with relentless ads and celebrity endorsements. It seeps into your subconscious. I don't know why boys love toy cars from childhood, but it's true. From a young age, we're brainwashed. The toy cars I played with were Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. My dad gave me a Ferrari toy as a kid, so growing up, every Ferrari on the road felt ultra cool. As an adult, I bought a Porsche Cayenne and a Mercedes-Benz CLS. Why? No one in my family drives. and I couldn't get a two-seater supercar, not enough seats. Still, my garage has an empty spot waiting for a Ferrari. I don't even know why I'd buy it. I'm rarely home, and I barely drive. But I want it. The problem is, with tech advances, cars, bags, and products are made faster. High prices mean good quality and durability. But if a bag or car lasts 8-10 years, the economy crashes from overproduction. So, here's the third trick: constant innovation. Take Tesla. Early buyers got the short end. Why? Newer Teslas have more features, better designs, major upgrades, all built on the old versions. Early owners were guinea pigs for the new ones. Don't want newer buyers looking down on you? Upgrade. But electric cars depreciate fast. You picked electric over gas to save fuel, but now EVs lose value quicker than gas cars. They're like phones. You buy an iPhone 15, then the 16's announced, want it. If not, your phone's still fine, but old. Old means no new features. Same brand, but you feel lesser. It makes you feel outdated, bored, curious about the new version. You're sucked into a cycle of craving the new, tiring of the old, and endlessly consuming. You might say phones are swappable, but cars are too pricey to keep upgrading. So, capitalists invented installment plans. Pay over time. Shop gradually. When everyone adopts this spending mindset, loving to splurge, that money flows to the capitalists. It's like they've conquered the world. To spend, you need money. To get money, you follow their rules. Sell your time, your labor. Even kiss up to them. That's how money controls people. Plus, your money keeps losing value. So you can't stop. Gotta keep working, keep contributing. That's why we must start businesses. When the game's rules can't change, the only option is to play. If you can't beat the capitalists, become one. Nothing shameful about it. Not everyone can pull it off. You have to learn, grasp the world's essence, and build a method that fits you. I hope this video doesn't sow hatred but makes you smarter. We just need to learn what's useful for making money. Time's short, so I'll end here. I share free insights on wealth building, business, investing, and financial freedom. Don't want to miss out. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video. I wish you all financial freedom soon. If even one or two lines I've shared improve your life, I'm fulfilled.